Better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are now live. If you hear us and we're coming through okay, please give us a 5x5 in the chat to let us know. We are going to have Ecological Criminal Report on tonight. It's going to be sort of kind of like what we had last night, or not last night, last week, where we had James May on, a federal narrative supporter. It's not going to be quite as adversarial because I think Eco and I agree on a lot more than I did with James May. So it's not going to be quite as formal as courtroom-like as last time, but it'll still be a great night. Eco, I believe, supports the CGI theory. He's a great account over on X. I've talked to him so many times. He always comes on my spaces over there on X. And I know Kelly's had him on before. So Kelly, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. We've, gosh, is this our third round now? We've
Yes.
Lucky number three, Eco. So glad that you're here. And if you guys want to really hear Eco in depth, a long, maybe stream that you can check out. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And a pretty exciting announcement that I think we can make now. If you see the graphic on the lower third of the screen, it says try and prove it. That is a new channel that Kelly and I are, I guess, pioneering and sort of launching tonight, which is basically going to be what we're doing tonight, Thursday night, the past couple Thursdays, where we sort of have a debate show and we bring people on who either support or deny certain conspiracy theories. Obviously, starting off with the Charlie Kirk case, but we kind of wanted it to be more sustainable in the future so we can continue to do it and maybe start looking at some other conspiracies as well. So that's pretty exciting. We are streaming to that channel on X, and that doesn't have any followers, but we'll probably link it somewhere so you can find it later. But that's an exciting announcement. That's what Try and Prove It is. That's the channel name. And Eco, tonight we are going to begin with a section, or actually I'll hand it over to Kelly because Kelly will be controlling the time.
Okay, well, thank you again, Jordan. I'm so excited about Try and Prove It. As you can tell, Jordan and I have really kind of hit a good stride on these streams over the last few weeks. So, and folks have really seemed to enjoy our interactions. So we're like, why not? Not just on the CK investigation, but on future or other topics as well. Future and past. Okay, you guys, so let's jump in. I am thrilled to be here. First, we are going to go over some general Charlie Kirk case research updates. Jordan, would you like to dive into some of the things that, are you good? Some of the things that you have been working on as of late?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We were going to start off with the presentations. I forgot. I was trying to repost your post on X.
That's okay.
Because my X is not working.
If we want to go ahead.
I accidentally, let me just repost this real fast. And that's done. I accidentally clicked into the stream instead of reposting it. There we go. Okay, so presentations for the fake death Squib narrative. We're going to do another field test on this Saturday. I think we don't have the time nailed down yet, but we're going to, like last week, I went out into a field and Kelly was sort of hosting, and I tried to do a Squib test where I synced the rifle electronically, the activation of the rifle with the activation of the CO2 pennant gun on myself. I had to tape it to my leg and do a bunch of stuff with two different backpacks that are down here, 2 black backpacks carrying all the electronics to make it work. And it mostly sort of kind of worked, but it didn't really work. The activation failed on both of them. And that was because I was using some really janky hardware that was not intended for what I was using it for. And I had a hardware failure between a drill bit of like a small little electric screwdriver and the valve that opened the CO2 that came apart. And that's why that didn't work. But for this next test, I have this device here, which is actually designed for what I'm going to be using it for. It is a electric solenoid that's actually intended for opening and closing CO2 pressure very, very rapidly. So that will make it significantly more reliable than what I was doing last time with this thing that did not work. It would have worked, and it worked before, but it fell apart when I ran. I had to run out there, and then I was like pretending to throw hats, or at least I meant to. I'm gonna have hats next time to throw. But it didn't work last time. I think it's going to work this time, but it is a prototype testing program, so it's not guaranteed to work. I think it'll work, but it's data, it's learning. Failure is an option, but the goal is to eventually, hopefully next time, get to where I have a successful, not detonation, but activation of the CO2 pennant gun, making my shirt lift up like this, and of the rifle trigger in the trunk. And we also want to demonstrate the range of the synchronization between those. And I also would kind of like to demonstrate the ability to have a live stream blackout, which means we have reports from UVU saying that the live stream, everyone live streaming the event, there was a blackout like a couple seconds before the shooting and then a couple seconds after for that period of time. And what I think might have happened is when I was building these two backpacks with the electronics in it, I found out that when I turn on the transmitter that talks to the rifle, that made my Wi-Fi stop working in my house, at least for my phone. Not for my laptop, but for my phone, it stopped working. It just completely trashed it. So I think, and it didn't work this time, not sure exactly why. Maybe I need to change to a different frequency. But what happened was, what I want to see happen is I want to see the live stream actually cut out like a couple seconds before and a couple seconds after when I actually do the activation, because I programmed it such that the transmitter is not transmitting the whole time. It only transmits, it starts transmitting like a couple seconds before, and then it shuts off the transmitter a couple seconds after. So those are the things I want to demonstrate. Double activation at the same time. It's with a BB gun, so you're not going to hear it yet. We'll do that in the future. But activation of the BB gun at 130 yards away in a field at the same time as the CO2 pennant gun. And I also need to be able to run out into a field while wearing this thing and drive a car and sit down, stand up, do jumping jacks, maybe roll around on the ground, and then just stand up and have this thing blow up in my face with an electronic trigger with my hands out. Maybe I'll be doing this thing and then it'll go. If I can demonstrate that, we're doing really, really well in this testing program. And that will be this Saturday, I think. We don't have the time set up yet. Probably the same time. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out later.
Yeah, mid-afternoon worked well for us last time.
Perfect. So that'll be this Saturday. So there's going to be a lot of updates to the thing that I'm wearing, and I will detail those updates later once I figure out exactly what it's going to be. And we're going to have a super professional live stream this coming Saturday, because I'm going to write some stuff and probably going to put a video together for like the intro, trailer, whatever. It's going to be really exciting, really professional. And so, yeah, that is the update from me on my, not investigation, but on my demonstration of what I'm trying to do with the case.
So question, is it OSHA approved?
I'm not acting as an employee in this respect, so OSHA does not have jurisdiction. But
good answer.
It's just air pressure. The only thing I have to worry about is the freezing. When that canister goes, it's going to get extremely cold, and it's almost like if you were to put a lighter to it and make it super, super hot, you don't want that touching your skin. So that's the main thing that I want to stay away from. And I want to insulate myself, especially in that region of my body. So that'll be pretty much the only way I would ever come into danger, is with that frost, with that rapid cooling, because I don't want to get frostbite, especially in that area. That would really suck. That's the only danger to me, at least at this stage. So Kelly, did you have any updates in your investigation?
Well, I did have a couple more questions for you, actually, from our viewers. So, and I think this is a great one, especially based on the news of the week. So this is, stemming from documents that came out late on Friday, and then everyone realized come Monday we're out. Could that bullet fragment be from the mic? Or to keep it even more broad, Jordan, what do you think that bullet fragment may be all about?
I am quite sure John Bray will say so. I have no doubt he will be very interested in that finding, if he's not already. He probably already is. But I'm sure he will say so. Do I think it would be from the mic? Not if it came, if whatever it is came in through this hole, I know it's not from the mic because it doesn't have line of sight. I've gone over that so many times. It does not have a line of sight. It would have had to have gone in this side of the neck and through, I guess, out as an exit wound here, but it could not have entered there into the body. So I don't think it would be from this location if that were the entry wound. If it was somehow the entry wound over here and we just didn't see it, I guess so, but not if it entered over here.
Yeah, and I mean, in my perspective, I'm still not buying that there is a bullet fragment at all and that there is truly evidence to suggest such. I think it's no coincidence that they are having such a hard time producing all of these reports, all of this documentation, the ballistics, I mean, all of the things. I think it's very difficult for a reason. And again, they didn't anticipate so many people keeping such a close eye on it after all of this time. And at this point have to kind of make things up.
And I've heard so many times in cases where the police like screw things up big time, the way you know is when they just delay handing over evidence because they're embarrassed by it, because they don't want to have to retract everything and throw out the charges. So they just withhold it as long as they can, and then ultimately they have to, and bad things happen to them. But it's just the human psychology of wanting to push it off as far as you can until you can't anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think for me, I'm in the process of really revisiting a lot of things that I have, like loose ends that I have left loose over a period of time. I've allowed myself, unfortunately, to get distracted by a lot of, and so I'm really trying to commit here moving on forward to, stick to my lane, not let other people distract me, and just keep my head down and worry about what I know and what I believe. So I'm doing that.
I only caught part of that because you were breaking up, I think, on my end.
Okay, let me adjust.
I think that was probably my end. Last time it was on my end. But sorry, go ahead. I only caught part of that, so I was not understanding.
Broke up for me a little bit too.
Okay.
I think you were saying that you were getting into some Twitter battles.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, I've had a lot of distractions lately. Sorry, didn't even realize I was on my Wi-Fi and not my direct connection. So hopefully this is better now. I've been in a bunch of Twitter battles and a lot of attacks coming at me, and then trying to stand up for other people and yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to really try to revisit a lot of things that loose ends that I was kind of thrown off the scent of. And that's what I've been working on. Things I've been doing a lot of good old-fashioned shoe leather reporting. I'll say that. And that's what I'm best at. So without, leaving you guys hanging too much, just know that I've got some good stuff coming, and you can count on that soon.
Yeah, we want to focus on solving puzzles and solving problems and figuring stuff out, and not on the drama.
All right, are we ready to transition? Eco, you ready to get started?
Sure, yeah. And I also see a comment from who was it? Someone calling us morons, or a couple people. Terry DP46 asks, did you two morons read the court docs? There is an autopsy report and autopsy photos. I have not seen that yet, so feel free to say what number of the documents it is in the docket, and I will check that out. But I think there were some ones posted recently which are worth going through, I think. So,
autopsy photos like the Epstein autopsy photos. That weren't Epstein.
I would love to know, because on Monday or Sunday night downloaded, I think it was like 180 page, 180 or 200 something page document. Obviously, I could not print that out. I don't have enough enough ink to do that. But from what I was going through, I did not see any photos in that bad boy. But by all means, please let me know.
Yeah, right.
Let's give it to Eco, and then let's not focus on the comments. Let's not get distracted by those, and we will hand it over to Eco for 15 minutes max, uninterrupted.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you for having me, Jordan. Jordan labeled this as CGI theory, which I assume means computer-generated image theory. So this was basically one part of kind of what I had come up with as a way to sort of explain a number of different pieces. But I tend to sort of call this the everything is fake and gay theory, or everyone is in on it theory. And that was really because when I started going through these conspiracies and sort of going through how everything would need to work in order to make all of the anomalies happen, I really started thinking that even the things that we take for granted might have been placed there on purpose, so that the audience's perception would be screwed by the data they were even looking at, thinking was real in the first place. And so just to kind of share my thought process a little bit, like a lot of people, I saw that initial video of Charlie getting shot in the neck, and really did not think too much of it. I, another terrible tragedy, immediately wished I did not see that. And then something really interesting happened, which was, everybody is starting to make claims about it and saying who it came from. And obviously it's a leftist, because who else would shoot Charlie Kirk? And so that was a little interesting to me. I had researched leftist and right-wing political violence, as well as political prosecutions. And that didn't really compute with what my research had showed. I thought it was also a little weird when they started deleting government reports on leftist versus rightist violence, and sort of ears perked up at that as well. But it really wasn't until I saw a video and I think it was maybe Kim Iverson or something like that, where she did a video on just a survey of all of the conspiracies going on, many of which I think Kash Patel had sort of listed in his tweet. And there was actually video of it, right? There was the palm pistol guy. There was the so-called cell phone shooter from the right. There was the camera gun in the back right. There was the possibility of a bomb. There was, just a lot of moving parts in the crowd that seemed to indicate that there was more to see than meets the eye. Let's put it that way. And so really I just started tracking that down. And so what I realized was all of these conspiracies are really based on these initial videos that were provided, but didn't necessarily know who they came from. And so at some point I tried to track those videos down, and kind of kept coming to, some gaps in this chain of custody. Realized that while most of these videos or most of these pictures that were coming up show this, this white shirt pop in the front, a lot less were showing these frames that were allegedly claimed to be showing cavitation. So that was a little interesting to me. I was, thinking about, okay, this front pop, this back pop, this blood, this hole, the shot sound, the crowd reaction, how could it possibly have happened all at the same time? I think Range Day Bro was talking about, this shot from the back right. I had initially thought the cell phone camera gun from the right was really interesting to me, just because I could not understand exactly what was going on. But when I tried to kind of figure out, this chain of, what was going on, it really did not make sense to me how this shot could puff the shirt up, the back out, hit the neck, and then I started hearing all of these theories with regards to, a surgeon who was unnamed, who was talking to Laura the Mortician, or Stephen Gardner, or TPUSA Andrew Colvett. And really seeing how the YouTubers, present company excluded, I'm sure, were sort of taking for granted these claims that were being said based on these anonymous sources. And even Candace had said, she could definitively say that the shot had come from the front, and then did not show any evidence. So I was a little concerned about how this investigation was going, and how certain YouTube personalities were kind of converging on certain pieces of the story that couldn't necessarily be explained. And so I was wondering, okay, well, if this is a psyop, are there psyops in the YouTube, arena? If the crowd is acting weird, is the crowd in on it? And so kind of what I had come to sort of think after my own investigation, and looking at networks and looking at the discourse and looking at the videos and really the arguments that were being had, and where people converged or conflicted, it I guess came to me that these images, these videos, these audio, even the charging documents might not actually be real. A lot of people were saying how the texts seemed to be fake. If anybody has read those charging documents, the engravings and the bullets come right after. And so, and they also, the way they're kind of written seems like it could be AI generated. And so along with the generation of the charging documents, the UVU has an applied AI engineering program, I think, as of this past year. The FBI has stated that they're using AI in their, operations or what have you. And there were also a number of other events over the past year that also kind of gave off this same feeling. So with that said, that's kind of how I was starting to kind of generate, what could happen in order to throw people off the scent, so to speak. And so that's where I kind of thought, well, maybe this front puff of the shirt, which kind of looks like a streak and can't really be explained, might itself be an element of editing in a studio. Same with the back puff, same with the amount of blood. And so the way I would think that it would happen is if you have maybe a small squib kind of by the neck, just to kind of give the audience a little bit of
I think we're losing your audio a little bit.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so what I was saying was the way I would think this would happen would be the front part of the white shirt coming up seemed like not an AI, sort of like a editing studio technique, as did the back puff. There might be an actual squib for the audience to see, but it seemed to me that the majority of that blood in the videos would be CGI as well. The way that it moved was did not look like you would expect. And so what that meant then was that, how would we sync this sound of a shot with this, with what Charlie is doing? And I was kind of tracking what people were saying about the audio. Some people were, cool with the audio. Some people were saying it might go through a speaker. Some people were saying that that they heard a firecracker. Some people said they heard a pop, like a balloon or something like that. And so I was kind of tracing all of these and sort of compiling what was going on there. And then I think also we had somebody, Zeb, in another space, say that they heard that there were two shots. And while the audience doesn't show that, there are techniques that can essentially remove that from the equation, so to speak. So the way I could see that happening is if UVU review, who is videoing it, and select people in the crowd who are videoing it, are able to very quickly, knowing what is going to be happening, taking videos of that, are able to send it to either the AV team or the UVU review team, or someone who is able to essentially edit those videos in ways that can add those different elements, put in a audio of what you would expect to hear, and then push these videos out at different times in order to create the belief and the assumption that these videos are unedited and essentially raw footage, when in fact they might be edited. So with that, I think I have maybe 2 minutes to kind of finish up any things. I'll just say that from what I understand, the UVU review Videos have a problem with they might not be the original versions. And I think there's some question as to, did UVU review sort of upload it and somebody else downloaded it and then passed it on to Blake? Or did something happen in the editing version and they sort of pretended that it was unedited, but pushed that out? I also noticed Jason Goodman involved with Cub Keller's video from the side, which came a little bit later and really sort of showed that back puff, as well as I think Zeb mentioned Jason had the original video of Charlie being shot, that video being from his left. And so I had, noticed that Jason was a award-winning 3D film editor and was just thinking, well, if anybody would have the skills to do it, it might be him. So those were some questions. Jason blocked me after I said that. So, understandable. But my sense is that, like you and Kelly, that this is looking kind of fake. This would, what I'm sort of alleging here, and if it did happen this way, there would be a lot of people involved. And not only would Charlie and the security and UVU be involved, but also people in the crowd, involving people, including people who were giving interviews, people who were taking the videos in the first place, Adam Bartholomew. All of these videos are intended to show you things that you are supposed to take for granted and then make and essentially reason with this BS sort of distorting the actual what is actually happening. So Jordan, your mechanism, while I think is really good, I also think it might follow what was intended, which is how can we sort of reconstruct this this event mechanically when in fact it might be closer to CGI. So that's essentially the theory that I put together as a way to address a number of the inconsistencies, anomalies, etc. It is far out and it would take a lot of coordination. But if we are considering this a military operation or coordination by UVU, which is consistently #1 in national security games with their students, as well as FBI, LDS, ATF, all of these people, and especially Trump and what can happen internationally. It seemed like a better bet than others that I was hearing. So I thought I'd throw that out there as a option for people to address or integrate or attack or what have you. And with that, I will open it up for interrogation, or if you wanted to do something else, I'm happy to go there too.
Thank you, Ecological. That was amazing. Appreciate you really diving deep on that. And so now we're going to take a little bit of time, about 15. Wait, we're going to then hear your theory, Jordan?
I know
your Ecos.
Sorry, I think Eco already has a really good handle on what my theory is.
Okay.
When I presented at the beginning, that was me sort of presenting my theory, but I've already presented it to this audience in this format twice in a row. And I know Eco is already pretty familiar. So that was me presenting my theory at the beginning.
Perfect. Okay, so we can go ahead and jump into questioning Eco about a variety of aspects of his theory. And just in full disclosure, also to our audience, I want to share that, I have spoken with Eco several times over the last few months. I have streamed with Eco in January at length. So I don't want you guys to think that this is the first time that we're interacting. He and I have talked about a lot of these, aspects before. So just in full disclosure, I want you to know that.
Yeah, in the plan, I think I had it backwards. It was Eco to interrogate us first, but I think we should do it the other way around. That would make more sense. So we are going to go into this one, host cross-examines guest. Okay, I'll go ahead and start. I've wrote out some questions here. So Eco, what do you think physically happened to Charlie Kirk?
I think he may have had a little squib on his lapel, possibly, probably invisible, and it might have been put on right before he did this, or it could be, under it and had been there for a bit. But I think there's like a teeny little bit of blood in one frame, or a little bit of sort of red right before the kind of gush. And if you look at that video, I think that little bit of blood stays sort of at the top of the shirt, while all of the gush seems to kind of more slide off of the shirt. So
Let me ask you this way. What did the audience see?
The audience probably saw a little bit of blood, him fall over, and then not much after that. I was wondering what was going on, behind the tables. It could be the case that they are smearing more blood on his shirt or his belly or what have you at that time. It's sort of unclear to me. I could, I could get behind, something just kind of, popping up that's mechanical, but I don't think so. And
was a rifle fired?
I don't think a rifle was fired.
What did people hear?
That's a good question. I am not sure. I think they heard what sounded like what could sound like a gunshot. Though I don't think it would have been a rifle on the roof. I think people would have, who were close to the roof, would have been looking that way. What seems to be happening is a lot of people are looking towards where Charlie is looking at. Is where he's sitting. Specifically in the Adam Bartholomew video, when the shot takes place, a lot of the kids will look behind them.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they use CGI or fake videos if they already have a squib on Charlie? Why do we need fake videos?
I think what you're doing is you are selling it to the audience, not just in the area, at the event, but everybody who is going to be watching after. And so that front pop, on the one hand, I saw an interview immediately after by a girl who was saying that he was shot in the chest and blood was pouring out of his heart, or shot in the heart and blood was pouring out of his chest. So that interview of a person, eyewitness, just doesn't match up with what we see.
But other eyewitnesses said it came from the neck, right?
I think a lot of quote-unquote eyewitnesses said they were not looking at Charlie at that precise time. A few of them said
there were eyewitnesses who said he was shot in the neck, though, right?
You would, I think that a lot of the eyewitnesses in the court documents said that they were on Charlie's right side, and maybe and maybe were not looking at him at that time, so heard that he was shot in the neck.
On the public record, just on YouTube videos, people who have been interviewed in the public eye, there are people who were there who said that they saw him shot in the neck, right?
I'm sure that happened. I'm just pointing out another eyewitness video said something completely different, and other eyewitnesses have said either that they didn't see it, that they heard about it, or they heard about it, didn't see it, or were looking in a different direction. So I'm not denying that somebody, an eyewitness, said that, but I would also wonder if the people who are grabbing the mic immediately after are there to grab the mic immediately after and say they saw him shot in the neck.
Kelly, we do have reports of both, right?
We do. We have reports of both. And in fact, we have people who had reported on the news that they thought he was shot in the chest. And some who, said they just heard firecrackers. We had lots of people who said, well, I heard it, but I didn't see it. And then some who said neck.
Now, Eco.
Can I just add something one more really quick? And that is, the question of why would you sort of have that front pop? That doesn't make sense. A lot of people have been talking about a story about, as an attempt to explain this, right? This sort of anomalous.
Okay, let's stay on topic. Let's stay on topic.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let me just say, Jordan, what I've heard is that is being claimed as the necklace, which is sort of going up in order to, which is itself an effect of the bullet sort of going through, expanding through cavitation, breaking the chain, popping the necklace up. And that was kind of the story that sort of connects to Erica grabbing that necklace. Turek, I think, finding the necklace in the car. And then there's a lot of stories with regards to this necklace, which becomes a sort of symbol of, Christian martyrdom or what have you. So I think the CGI might relate to that.
Okay. So if eyewitness reports as to the location of the wound on Charlie differ, what does that mean?
Sorry, if two eyewitness reports say different things, what does that mean?
If one eyewitness says that he was shot in the neck and another one reports that he was shot in the chest, what does that mean?
Well, it could mean a few things. It could mean that eyewitnesses are not reliable, in which case every one of them will be kind of removed. And I think that is what the prosecution has essentially done. And the other option is that they're seeing either they don't have their stories straight, they are traumatized. One person saw what they thought was real, and another.
So they're
person,
unreliable. They're unreliable.
Either, I would say, mostly unreliable. Yeah.
Okay.
Either because they're lying or they've made a mistake.
Okay. If I am designing this crime scene, if I'm planning this out, I want to fake Charlie Kirk's death, and I want to emotionally traumatize basically the whole world for whatever reason. Why would I use CGI just to add more blood when it would be so much easier to just add more blood to the squib?
Well, I think on the one hand, Jordan, you've been having some difficulties kind of making all of those mechanisms work. So I would imagine that it is, if something goes wrong, that's going to be a huge problem. So to me, it seems like in order to make this event work, you need everything to go not only perfectly, but you need to minimize any kind of vulnerability where it couldn't go perfect. And so
hold on. Wouldn't a far greater vulnerability be we have 3,000 eyewitnesses there who are looking at Charlie when this happens? If they just see a a little tiny little drop of blood coming out of his shirt, but then they look at social media an hour later and there's this fountain of blood coming out. Isn't that the greater liability?
I think that's a great point. I think that it's unclear how much blood is coming out in the, in the sort of, in the real world versus the CGI. Again, you have a lot of people who are at the event who may be involved in this. So there is that part. You also have people, a lot of these eyewitnesses are coming several, weeks after, if not, an entire month. So again, people might be one, not seeing it because it's coming, from one side and you can't, see that blood from the other side. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There would be discrepancies there. It's unclear because we don't kind of have this is what's the word? Yeah, that's a great point, Jordan. You would have to sort of be there to see it, and you would have to have another video that wasn't one of the originals to compare that. But again,
Okay.
it looks like the videos from any angle have that same kind of CGI-ish blood. And so, I think if you had a sort of squib that might have a bit on it, then you can at least get away with, more, and then sort of rely on people's kind of not, in the 3 weeks,
Okay.
sort of having that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Repeated videos, and so they, see something that they didn't necessarily see before, but don't necessarily speak up on it.
So, okay, say that 5 drops of blood come out of the squib in real life, and then people go home and they see online a whole fountain of blood coming out. You're saying that maybe it's not just 5 drops of blood, maybe it's 20 drops of blood, or maybe it's 50 drops of blood. If you have to add so much more blood to the real squib to fix that problem, then doesn't that sort of erase the whole purpose of doing it in the first place?
I think it's unclear, right? Because if you take that one girl's kind of testimony as, what might have happened, and she's saying Charlie got shot in the chest and blood was pouring out, then, the shirt would be essentially, covered in blood from, that squib. And then you have, somebody going on after and sort of, adding that sort of blood pouring out of his neck element. The people on the ground, it's happening in a second. You might see a whole bunch of that blood that is sort of seeping out that as he's getting pushed over. But yeah, no, I don't know if it's 5, drops of blood or 20 drops of blood or an entire thing that has, made an entire white shirt very, very red. But I'm just saying what it looks like to me.
Okay.
Is that you have some blood that doesn't move, that is staying on the shirt, and you have a lot of blood that is coming from what appears to be a kind of a new element that is sort of popped in here.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've got a couple of things, but start with, with all of the people there, how do you keep folks, random attendees? I mean, we're talking college kids, even high school age kids, older folks, whoever, from not just posting raw video. that is not CGI edited?
Yeah, well, I think that's a good question. I think on the one hand, if you look at when the announcements for this event was going on, you have basically the UVU review, or not review. I think UVU website is posting about this event literally the day before. You have the I think you have the TPUSA national or regional maybe posting only a week or two before, and so you're essentially packing your audience with people who are favorable to you, as opposed to people from the school itself, with the exception of the TPUSA team. So you're advertising.
What do you mean by favorable to you? So if I'm the event organizer, I'm trying to fake this thing. How do I keep Joe Smith from posting it on Instagram immediately afterwards?
Right. Well, what I was saying was you basically make sure Joe Smith does not come to your event and record it. And the way you do that is by advertising it less than 24 hours before it actually happens, and making sure that all of the people who are friendly to you are at the event in the places that you want to sort of occupy before, so that people don't have so that people aren't getting into those spots. So I think there was a drone picture before, or a spy plane picture, or whatever you want to call it, that sort of showed.
What do you mean by friendly to you?
So if I am TPUSA, I want to make sure that everybody who's in my audience might be on TPUSA's side, as opposed to a bunch of people who are, there to either discredit it, or who you can't control, or who might take those pictures.
So if I had gone to that event, if I lived there and found out Charlie Kirk was going there, I probably would have gone there, and I would have been on TPUSA's side, I guess, because I respected Charlie Kirk. That doesn't stop me from posting it to Instagram.
No, of course not. But if you get notice within, 15 hours that there's going, that UVU is having an event there, then you will have less of a chance, I would guess, to get there, because you would have to move things around. Does that make sense?
I mean, but we're talking about college kids. Sorry, we're talking about, it's some part, and it's for some of the folks, we're talking about college kids. In other places, apparently, we're talking about these, random, like, middle-aged adults that showed up. And then apparently kids, that skipped school, young kids that skipped school or whatever to show up for Charlie. But no one was checking tickets or anything like that. They weren't vetting anyone who was there. And we also know that there were a lot of the quote unquote goth people, or opposition, right, that was there too. The un-F America folks were there, supposedly, right? So how do you control all of those types as well?
Yeah, well, I would guess that the Unfuck America tour is a sort of controlled leftist opposition that is very much involved in this. If you see Hunter, he's basically the one who is talking when this is happening. He's also got connections to, I guess, ABC. He's also sort of in the firing line, which means he's going to be a witness, right? You have the so-called leftist queer group or pro-trans group that is so supposedly protesting him, which is sort of confined to a very specific area, which I think Adam Bartholomew is kind of checking. So, again, I think there are ways to control the different elements, right? If UVU students are involved in this as part of, a national security exercise in which a bunch of people are participating, you might have, buy-in from a lot of people. Additionally, and I learned this a couple weeks ago, my friend said he has a friend who actually works at UVU, and she was required to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So, these are things that I hear, but if you have people who are at UVU review who are signing NDAs, if you have students there who are involved in, national security programs, criminal justice programs, etc.
Okay, let's move on.
There are ways in which that you can organize this in order to reduce the possibility of discrepancies coming out.
Okay. Why is there no exit wound if all the footage was fake and the goal was to make it look like a 30-06?
I don't know. The goal was to make it look like a 30-06. I think the goal was to create as much ambiguity around what happened as possible, so that we could have Erica and Candace go back and forth for 6 months, getting millions of views, while we all kind of focus on this instead of other things. So to the question of why is there no exit wound, I think the story of it, hitting the spine and, being not available for, analysis is a good story to have if you don't want any evidence to be shown. And so if it stays in Charlie, he's rushed to the hospital, a shard can't be conclusive, and, yada, yada. You essentially have collected or suppressed or are ensuring that no evidence actually makes it to the public, because then that can be analyzed in different ways to show that it's not true.
Okay, so you're saying that it would not have an exit wound because basically it's a psyop and we're just trying to stir up drama online. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I think that it would be very difficult to simulate an exit wound if you are faking this.
Why is that?
Well, because I think you would, people have said, if this was a real shot, the entire back would be, just painted red, right? So one, that looks a gunshot to the neck, I can imagine, looks brutal to the point where you cannot, where you don't want to see that. And I think the exit wound would be something that you can't fake. And I think the entry wound was there are ways to fake it, like, putting a little red circle on his neck in the Final Cut Pro, but, something else might be different.
They were able to add this massive fountain on the front. Why can't they do that on the back too?
Again, yeah, because I think it's a psyop, and they, had a story about the necklace and the surgeon and, this, that, and the other available. But I think if there's an exit wound, then, you're looking for a bullet. And if you're looking for a bullet, then, you have to find one. And if there is no bullet, then it's going to be difficult to explain.
Can you just throw a bullet that you shot into water on the ground?
You can, but I think if there's a lot of people and not all of them know, the degree to which this is happening, then, you may have a problem. But that's just a thought.
Kelly, did you have any more questions?
And in terms of the sound, no other ideas as to how they made this sound happen, who heard what, why, and why so many people have different sound analysis conclusions.
Well, I can answer that, but how is it so loud if it's not a real gunshot? Yeah.
I don't think it is essentially super loud. I think that there are ways that you can if we are talking about multiple videos being edited and including a edited for that sound, I think you can essentially make what we see on the video sound and look a certain way when it didn't necessarily look or sound that way. So there might be.
How did it sound?
I don't know how it sounded because I wasn't there. What I'm saying is that if you have a speaker that is, making a noise, and then you are editing the videos in order to create a soundtrack that includes a, what we're claiming to be a supersonic shot, then you can essentially create or edit through these videos that you control the specific elements that you need in order to make the case that it came from the roof. If that makes sense.
Previously, you said, and I'm going to switch to a different topic because I know our time is probably about to expire here. You previously said that there's an editing studio CGI technique that would reproduce the shirt puff in the front and in the back. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I think I'm basically I'm not an editor or a film person by any means, but I've seen sort of 3D reconstructions of different things, and so people can have
what 3D reconstructions have you seen that are similar to the shirt puffs?
I think somebody online had was doing kind of a simulation where they had a shirt. They were kind of dragging it or clicking it to sort of show what it would look like for the entire shirt to move. And so you have basically this shirt that acts like a normal shirt based on, what you can expect. And you can sort of, and so what you could do is simulate, hey, if this bullet is hitting this way, what does that do to the rest of the shirt? And then potentially overlay it or other techniques to make that appear to be real when you have added different elements like the shot, like the blood, like the front and back pop, and potentially like the shot sound in the videos.
Okay. That would be basically like a wind effect they would just put under a shirt. But okay.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. But you could also, for instance, like if you have in Cub's video.
The biggest issue is just the compositing aspect of it. You can model that and simulate it, no problem. But like, first of all, you're simulating a CO2 pennant gun because that's what it looks like, is a CO2 pennant gun, a blast of CO2 starting here going up. So why are you modeling that? Why are you simulating that in the first place? And just the compositing aspect of it is going to be the biggest issue, not the simulation itself, just the compositing into the original video without having any evidence in the grain pattern or anything that it was modified. And getting the lighting absolutely perfectly, getting the compression absolute perfect, getting all that stuff, that's going to be the trickiest thing. And a graphic, an effects artist, it should be able to see that a mile away. You look at I forget what the channel is called, but what is that channel? I forget the channel, but there's this YouTube channel of graphic effects artists who look at CGI stuff in like fake UFO videos, and they can spot this stuff a mile away. How come no CGI artist has come out saying that the stuff in those videos is CGI?
I think a lot of people sort of accept the Fed slop narrative and kind of just roll with it, and maybe are not as obsessed as you know, the people in the conspiracy space. I agree with you. I think you would need an expert, and you would need, you know, potentially an award-winning 3D editor, for instance.
Well, okay, hold on. Like, it's Quarter Crew. I just found it, the YouTube channel. They spot the stuff a mile away. The entire world saw this stuff when it happened. And these guys have such a keen eye for this stuff that they just spot it immediately. How come nobody that I know of, Kelly, have you heard anyone come out say that?
No, but I don't know that anyone has specifically been asked. So I do think that it would be a very interesting follow-up.
Yeah, but these people, when they see CGI stuff, fake stuff in real video footage, it's not like they're looking for it. They're told to look for it. They just know. It's just like it just jumps out at them because they see it so much. So my question would be, how come we have literally nobody coming out saying that this is CGI just by looking at it from an expert's perspective?
I think you should tag those people and ask, and let's see what they say. But you know, I think a lot of people are not. I think, first of all, I don't think too many people have sort of claimed that this could be the case, and so people might not be looking for it. I don't know if those people would, you know, want to watch an alleged murder over and over to sort of even see that. And so I think that it may not have crossed their desks, so to speak. But I mean, for me, when I first saw it and I saw the different videos as well as all of the video frames synced, that was my first thought. I was just like, that looks like an editing trick.
But is that a professional opinion?
No, of course not. So I don't have an editor or a you know, but maybe there are people in the chat who can say one way or another, who have that expertise. But I can't tell you why other people have not come to that conclusion. It could be because I'm far out on this and just wrong, but it also could be because people have not taken the time to check it out.
Just to clarify as well, this is not, you do not believe the CGI was a hologram, like in real time, because the hologram is also a theory, but I want to clarify that's separate and different from what you're talking about.
Yeah, I heard about the hologram theory. I'm not entirely sure what the hologram theory is. I'm going with it's probably not a hologram. And I would say that, yeah, so this theory is Charlie walks in, he might have a squib on his neck, it shoots, and then that footage is sent to an editor who adds different pieces of this, and the different videos that are connected to either Cub Keller or Jason Goodman or UVU Review. I think those three are the only ones that show cavitation. Out of like 17, only 3 might show that kind of back puff, whereas all of them sort of show that that front white shirt pop, and so that definitely looks like CGI to me. And then the back puff might take, you know, a month or so, and I think Cub Keller's processed video that Jason processed came out a month and a half later, and it showed that that back puff that everybody was claiming was, you know, evidence of cavitation, or I guess what you thought was a failed squib. in the
Okay.
back.
How are we on time?
We're there. We're there. I was just thinking that we're kind of grouping together some time because of the way we started out. So I think we're good to transition.
Okay.
Okay, so well, Eco, as I guess it would be time for Eco to interrogate you on your theory, Jordan.
Yes.
Go for it.
So, Eco, now you will have the opportunity to ask tough questions on the Squib theory, which I guess my CO2 pendant gun theory, and I guess Kelly's position as well, if you disagree.
Cool. Thank you so much. And I just want to say I've really appreciated the work that you've done, really trying to get it right. I think what I remember from your theory is that you are trying to make the front puff work, followed by the hole, followed by the spray, and then there's a sort of back puff in there as well. From what I understand, it is getting closer and closer and closer. You've mentioned that you have basically almost got it. I think it sounds like you're trying to sink a gun to that. So I guess on the one hand, I would ask you if you feel like that is the only possible way it could have happened, or if you are willing to give a little leeway to the possibility that there might be some CGI elements in that aspect.
I see no motive or direct evidence of CGI involvement. I don't see any indicators of CGI or any modification to the video footage in general. There might be a couple ones here and there that might be AI enhanced or something, but I see no indicators of CGI at all. I'm not a CGI artist, but I've kind of dabbled in it before, and I've certainly watched a lot of Corridor Crew videos where they go in really in depth on how to spot CGI, and I do not see any indicators whatsoever with that minimal experience. So I'm not inclined to suspect CGI in the first place, especially because we have such a bizarre presentation with what looks like a CO2 pendant gun and a random puff of air in the back. It doesn't seem cohesive. It seems like it's a symptom of some type of system that was unintended. It's just a side effect of not something that was intended. So that's my read on what we observe. I don't see evidence of CGI. I don't think that this is consistent with what you would design in CGI. You would design something that is cohesive, that makes sense in CGI, not something that makes no sense at all. I don't necessarily buy that just because we want to stir up drama with Candace, that's why we would do a psyop to just add random stuff that makes no sense to Charlie Kirk. I don't buy that. Just personally, like I would need to see examples, verified examples of that somewhere else. And I'm not following that logic train there. As far as, do I think that there is any other way to get the thing to come up into the neck and the back of the shirt to puff out? How close am I? How positive am I? What I know for sure is that I can reproduce what we observe using the CO2 pendant gun. And what that involves, you're adding a lot of stuff here. I'm going to mute you because there's so much feedback or something. It's better now. Thank you. Appreciate it. That way you have control over it. I don't forget. Wow, it's so quiet now. Now I can hear myself think. I don't think, okay, back to where I was. I can reproduce it perfectly with the CO2 pendant gun, pretty much just about. It doesn't quite have enough power yet. I think that once I start using this guy, I'm going to have probably more power than I know what to do with, because it's going to release the entire canister all at once with a valve actually designed for that. But I'm very confident that I can reproduce what we observe pretty much exactly. I'm not aware of any other test that has even come close to demonstrating explanatory power. So I come at it from a scientific perspective of we're going to think like scientists. We are going to propose hypotheses. Those hypotheses are not candidate explanations until they demonstrate explanatory power, and they demonstrate explanatory power by reproducing the observables. You can say it's a 30-06 that just was a varmint round or was whatever kind of specialty round or it was underpacked or whatever, but until you can demonstrate that in some type of substitute for a human flesh, a human neck, then it's not a candidate explanation. Now, once I demonstrate that my CO2 pendant gun can reproduce the shirt behavior on the front, reproduce the necklace behavior basically perfectly in the right ballpark, the right pattern of behavior, starting at the pendant, moving up, flying up over the shoulders and back. If I can demonstrate that, and if I can explain who you would call in order to get a absolutely perfect prosthetic, then that becomes a candidate explanation. Doesn't mean it's true, but it has become a candidate explanation. And in scientific terms, once we're there and nobody else has got even remotely close to that, as far as demonstrations go, then scientifically speaking, the CO2 pendant gun theory must be the preferred explanation for what happened to Charlie Kirk. So science is not absolute. It doesn't say this is what happened for sure. It says this is the best explanation we have because we can demonstrate it using this explanation, and there's no other explanation that has anywhere near as much explanatory power. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. And I would challenge you. I think I don't see you reproducing it perfectly. And I, while I think that it is, a good candidate explanation, and you have kind of done what you can to mimic what is seen in the video. I wonder if maybe not you, Jordan, and maybe not even you, Kelly, but maybe what the audience thinks in terms of the explanatory power, just because, for me, I do think that the CGI could explain it perfectly, with the exception of how can you account for the difference between, or I guess how can you account for nobody posting pics after? And I guess the only way I could say that is anybody who's posting. Anybody who is posting pics to YouTube is probably getting that shut down, and then anybody who is sending videos to the FBI is probably not going to be getting that published. So, just thoughts on that. I will say that it sounded like you said there are currently sort of no other candidate explanations that you are that you have seen. Is that correct, Jordan?
I'm sorry. We just had a highlight. I was not paying attention. Can you repeat that?
Sure. I was just asking, do you think that there are any other candidate explanations beyond what you have done?
Not that I've seen, no.
Okay. So if it is not what you have done, do you have, because I know
Wait,
you
hold
said.
on, hold on.
Sure.
Let's ask Kelly. Kelly, what do you think? You're muted.
Yep. Say that again. I was starring questions also just now. So
have you seen another candidate explanation demonstrate explanatory power as far as the shirt behavior and necklace behavior?
No, but I would say, I don't know why my mic keeps randomly muting. I would say that no, I haven't seen one do it perfectly. Generally, I equate this to kind of like a sports play. in football, in basketball, whatever. It is so hard to recreate that exact same play to look exactly the same with all of the elements doing the exact same motion and time. It just is. So,
Have you
no,
seen anyone else get close?
you're the closest that I have seen by far.
Would you? Okay, by far.
By
Eco.
far.
And just to follow up, do you think the CGI sort of theory, let's call it, has explanatory value, either a little less the same or a little more than Jordan's?
Oh, I think that there's a lot of value to it. And I do think that some of the videos that are circulating right now are suspect. I think that at this point, we're coming up on almost 7 months. People have no idea how many times the video that they are looking at, tinkering with, whatever, has been treated, changed, altered, sized up, sized down, nothing. They don't even know who originally took it, who originally uploaded it. And yet they are posting it and basing their whole life's theory on it as gospel. And they don't even know where it came from and who had it before them and who had it before that person and who had it before that person. So it's kind of gotten out of control. Now, that's not to say that we just give up, but we need to be realistic too.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That's why the CGI theory does, in part, why it does have merit. Because, look, I can make a video to show that I was there at UVU if I wanted to, and I wasn't, for the record. But I can make one to show that I was and pretend. So I could make a video to show anything that I really wanted to with, little to no experience and probably a $1.99 app on my phone.
The way I would answer that is until we can demonstrate that we can somehow manipulate, as the government, videos on other people's phones, then it has prospective explanatory power, but it's not actually a candidate until it's demonstrated. And I haven't seen that demonstrated.
Fair enough. I would just say thought experiments are legitimate in the field of science, and it may be the case that you can sort of do a thought experiment, have it, work, and then later on, when you have the different elements, they can sort of confirm that. The other question I'll say for Jordan is, Jordan, I know that your theory requires a gun on the roof of Losi, or I guess it doesn't require it, but that's sort of where you are putting it. And I would ask, I think there's been a lot of pushback on the sort of Fedslop narrative that, there's no gun seen as he's walking up. There's a question as to whether what is in his hand when he jumps off the roof is working. He would need that to be synced, which you are also doing. And you have sort of, and maybe this goes into the next aspect of this, the audio analysis, but you had written a program or a code, you had coded a program or what have you, that predicted the predicted the time difference it would take if you were expecting the shot to hit the van versus Charlie. I think what you had, what the code had provided you with.
Hey, we're going to go into that later. Do you want to
Okay.
save that for later when we focus on that specific topic?
Great. I guess the question was, where do you see the weaknesses in your theory that you have not yet put together? Only because I see it as there being a difficulty getting the gun onto the roof based on the pictures that we have seen. So yeah, if you want to address those criticisms, that would be helpful.
I don't think it's that difficult to get the rifle on the roof if it's not a 30-06, if it's just a smaller rifle that fits in the backpack, maybe one of the ones that folds out like this, maybe goes in the backpack. I don't know. It's probably not the 30-06 Mauser, but a smaller one, sure. So I don't think that's an issue at all. And we know that there was a shot on the roof because everyone heard it, and all the audio agrees with that. And it was an extremely loud sound, which kind of needs a gunshot. So that's, I look at the evidence, I start with the evidence, and I just go where the evidence takes me. As far as the largest weaknesses in my theory, I need to find somebody who knows how to do a prosthetic that's like photorealistic, so that you can take these really huge, like super high megapixel photos of the neck. We have a photo of Charlie that looks like it is a full face prosthetic. There was some drama online when I posted it because people didn't like my post. That's okay. But it looks like there is a seam on his lip right there. And some people think it's just a normal lip, but it looks like a double lip to me. And I think Kelly agrees. And that seems pretty consistent with the full face prosthetic. That being said, I don't know who specifically to call to get a full face prosthetic that is custom mapped to my face if I'm going to play Charlie Kirk in this reenactment. I don't know the phone number to call yet, but I know these people exist. I have one guy who I'm looking into who can probably do it, and they would have pretty much all day long Mike McCash. I don't have access to him, but he can probably do it. There are probably a lot of people who can do it, but it's just a matter of finding the right guy who can actually do it and who can assess, is this actually a prosthetic seam? I think it is, but my eye is not trained, so I don't know for sure, but it kind of looks like it to me. So, but getting a prosthetic that is that photorealistic, I think is achievable. I think it can be done, but I've not demonstrated it yet. So that is a weakness because it's not been demonstrated. Because I can say, oh, yeah, I can do this. Oh, yeah, I can do that. Oh, yeah, magic physics over here. Oh, yeah, magic physics over there, like John Bray does a lot. It was like this. It was like that. This is what happened. Then that happened. But until I demonstrate it, it's just me saying stuff. So I need to demonstrate the full face prosthetic or maybe a small prosthetic down here if we decide this isn't a seam. So I need to demonstrate that. So that's the weakest part of it. And then we need to figure out exactly how we cut the prosthetic. But those are the two biggest issues. And then getting the necklace to fly around, I can do it, but it's with a tube. So it's kind of janky. I'm not sure exactly what's happening yet. I think it might be a plug. But I'm pretty sure that once I figure out the prosthetic part, once I get my hands on that, I'll have a much better perspective on what exactly is happening with the necklace or tube or whatever flying out.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll just say I think the necklace is another sort of added element, and was just thinking as I was reading some of the comments that front shirt pop. One of the reasons for it might be to hide the squib with a a white sort of blur to prevent seeing that. So just a thought there. But if you want to move on to the audio, I am down for it. Really my critique of your work, Jordan, is
wait. Are we moving to audio now? Kelly is the one who.
I think that's, yeah.
We can. I was just going to add one thing, which was that my criticism of your work, Jordan, is not that it's bad or not that it is, off base. Just that I think it's a little too literal, so to speak, where you're reproducing everything on these videos when it might be the case that not all of those are real. So I just reiterating that again.
If you're good, Jordan, I think that, time-wise, we're good to move on to the next chapter in our
Okay, and that is the audio, right?
audio analysis.
Yeah. Okay, so I have 5 minutes to present my audio analysis. This will be partially for the audience, and I think partially for Eco. I'm not sure how much, because Eco and I have gone back and forth a lot on this, but I will give him the watered down 5 minute spiel on the work that I did, and I'll start that now. So we have a lot of audio recordings of what sounds like a gunshot from UVU at the time of the event. There are a few different methods you can use with that audio to try to figure out where the gun was and where the gun was pointed. One of the most important things you have to consider, though, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, is you have to determine, is the bullet supersonic or is it subsonic? If the bullet is supersonic, which almost all firearms are, that are going to be coming out of a rifle, then you have to remember that you're going to hear two different noises coming from two different locations when you listen to this audio. You're going to hear the sound of the bullet, and you're going to hear the sound of the rifle. The sound of the bullet will appear to come from the location of the bullet along its path to its destination. Think of it as a fighter jet flying away from the rifle, downrange into the target. It's not going to reflect the position of the rifle. So that's why we have so many different people saying, oh, it sounded like it was down in the courtyard. It sounded like it was to the left, to the right. And basically nobody is saying it's coming from the rear. Well, that's because the human brain processes spatial audio based on where do you hear it first. You hear the bullet first because it's supersonic, and you hear it where the bullet is along its path. So you're going to hear it, most observers will hear it down in the courtyard. So that's why we have a lot of people saying it sounded like it came from the courtyard, because you're listening to the bullet, not the rifle. The second sound you hear is the explosion inside the rifle, which will appear to come from the actual location of the rifle. So you have the rifle over here, the bullet flies out over here. Some people will hear it coming from here. Some people will hear it coming from here. Some people will hear it coming from here. Nobody will hear it coming from over here where the rifle is. So that's the crack that you hear from over here, 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 along the bullet's path. But the sound of the rifle is the thump sound, and everyone will hear it coming from there. But because we hear the crack first, we perceive the sound to be coming from where we hear the crack coming from. So we perceive the rifle to actually be in the location of the bullet along its path downrange. So that's where a lot of audio analyses go astray, is because they are triangulating the location of the bullet along its path instead of the sound of the rifle. So that is where a lot of people get stuck. And that's why we have so many different diverging audio analysis opinions with people who are not using the Crack-Thump method. The Crack-Thump method is a predictive algorithm, I guess, that says, okay, if there is a bullet being fired from a gun right here that is going to go downrange at a specific speed, say 2,500 feet per second, and we have an observer here, you have an observer here, you have an observer here, we should be able to mathematically simulate the Mach cone coming out of the sound of the bullet, and we should also be able to simulate the sound of the thump, the sound of the rifle. And there's going to be a time difference between when each observer in their spatial location hears the crack and when they hear the thump. The time difference between that. So it might be a crack thump, might be a crack thump, or it might be a crack thump. There's going to be a variable time delay between those, and each observer will hear a different time delay based on their location. So what we can do is create a mathematical simulation that says, given a hypothesis, let's guess that the rifle was in this location and it fired a bullet at 2,500 feet per second in this orientation downrange to a specific target. we mathematically simulate that, and we say, and we use that simulation to predict what the time delay should be between the crack and the thump for each observer. And that gives us a delta t, or the delay number, in milliseconds. And then we can compare the predicted delay to the actual measured delay in the audio recordings using Audacity or Audition, when we just measure the time between the crack peak and the thump peak. And if we have software like what I wrote, we don't have to just do one hypothesis test or two hypothesis tests. I can write the software such, and I have, such that you can drag around a cursor to represent the target. You can dynamically slide the speed of the rifle or the bullet, and you can dynamically move the position of the rifle to test thousands of hypotheses with thousands of different combinations, so that we're not just relying on one hypothesis. And I wrote that software, it works. And what I found was that I consistently get the lowest amount of error between the predicted and measured delta T's when I put the bullet into the van from the Lozy Center roof instead of into Charlie Kirk. So I get significantly lower error when it goes into the van and not Charlie Kirk. And these findings have been reproduced, where I reproduced Allgeist's findings. He was the first one to do it, and then he's a physicist, an actual working physicist who has been published. And he has a couple other physicists who have also reproduced those findings. And then I came along. I'm not a physicist, but I can code. And I said, okay, I'll see if I can reproduce it myself. And I reproduced it, and I got the same results. So we have 3 physicists who all got the same results, I believe. And then me, just a random guy who got the same results. And pretty much every other analysis that's been done using the Crack-Thump method has at least put it on the Lozy Center roof. They all agree, and the only people who disagree are people not using Crack-Thump method. And I say that they're all just triangulating the location of the bullet along its path and not the position of the rifle. And that's why they are wrong. And that's it.
All right. Okay. So, Eco, you're up. Would you like to counter or cross-examine, rather, Jordan on his audio analysis?
Sure. Yes. All right. Well, just to kind of respond first and then maybe challenge specific things. I think if you are sort of aware of what goes on and you're aware of this explanation when it comes to the way bullets move, you can potentially either stage your event with this in mind in order to kind of weaponize what you would expect to hear. And then sort of organize it around that way. So if people are talking about a firecracker or a pop that they can sort of expect to hear as a supersonic event, then you can potentially tell 5 or 10 people, hey, mention a firecracker in order for it to be consistent and plausible. So that is sort of what I have been wondering about with that particular, I guess, meme that is sort of repeated over and over. With regards to the Crack-Thump, if I recall correctly, there's the people who you're saying put it on the roof are specifically arguing for Fed slop, so to speak. And are not in any way promoting your van theory. So you're aligned with a number of Fed sloppers on that, which is fine. But it does sort of put into question if the sort of difference between the van and Charlie are, within a margin of error, so to speak. Does that unknowingly or unintentionally promote the official narrative while also kind of allowing for the difference between the two to sort of get lost in the discussion. So those are some kind of questions I have off the top of my head. Beyond that,
Hey, hold on.
Sure.
I didn't catch what the question there was. Can you
The-
rephrase that in just a couple of statements or
Sure. The question, I guess, one question is, if you know what to expect, can you organize the and stage the event with that in mind? So that's one. The second
Okay,
is
let's
okay.
just
Go
one
for
at
it.
a time, because
Sure.
I'm gonna forget. I promise
totally
you, and you know I will. Who am I in this scenario?
I would guess you are probably Harpal or let's
Okay,
say
so the
Gary
crime scene
Melton.
designer. So the crime scene designer, what you're asking is, if I can mathematically predict what it should be, then that means I should be able to fake it with fake sounds. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, if you are designing the crime scene, then you would basically want a few cameras or videos to have exactly what you're expecting them to have, which is specifically
Okay,
the audio.
I can answer that now. I mean, yeah.
Great. Yeah. So that all I'm saying is that could be one explanation for why you.
But I wouldn't put it in the van. I would put it into Charlie Kirk.
Right, but also the difference between it hitting Charlie and hitting the van is what percent of a second or what fraction of a second?
The error margin that we accumulate when we go from the van. Okay, well, okay, I'm not going to go aggregated. The aggregated error that we that the increase in aggregated error is like, I think 15 milliseconds of error. It's kind of hard to quantify that here for the audience. I'm probably going to lose the audience. I might lose you as well, but it's significant, the amount of error that is increased by as we go from the van to Charlie Kirk. It's significant.
Gotcha, but you also said you didn't know necessarily what the gun was. You said it probably wasn't a 30-06, and so you are claiming a different gun, in which case you're not sure about the feet per second.
Well, that's determined by the bullet. The most common, I believe, is 25 FPS, feet per second. And that's in a slider. And I do get the lowest error rate with like 2490 something. That's the smallest error that I can get with all things considered. That is the smallest error I can get, is with like 2490 something. But as far as like the air drag, the specific type of bullet, and I guess the mass of the bullet as well, will have a small impact on air drag. And my algorithm is just now able to simulate that, but I haven't included that in my report yet, because every time I sit down to do that, I get distracted. So I'll probably do that eventually, but I haven't yet. I think I answered your question, but I already forgot what it was.
Sure. I was basically asking if you thought your difference that you sort of came to, I guess, would hold up in court, or do you think people would sort of say, well, you don't know, the bullet, you don't know the gun, you don't know all of the different aspects of it, in which case the 15, what did you say, milliseconds or? Mm-hmm. Anyway, are essentially negligible when it comes to this, because of so many unknown factors that it could be within that range.
I'll tell you this, me as an individual would not hold up in court, because no judge is going to let me walk into the stand, because I have no background in physics. I went to community college. I'm not formally trained in any of this stuff. I just saw what a physicist did, and I said, I wonder if I can reproduce that. Turns out I could. Could my software be used? Maybe. I mean, probably not, but I suppose so. But what I will say is when I went on Trigger Smart with Kelly and Allgeist to present the faked death theory, we had Allgeist come up with one of his physicists who had this really super professional, like textbook level PDF where he was writing this like super professional report on the audio analysis that he did. And he is, I think, a working professor or a physicist or something, but a physicist. And it looks straight out of a textbook. So I would imagine that if he were to choose to come out and publish it in some way, shape, or form, that would absolutely be court admissible. But that's relatively hypothetical because, as far as I know, it hasn't happened yet. I can ask Allgeist later tonight and maybe get a message tomorrow morning to find out for sure. But I would imagine that that dude's work would absolutely be admissible because that was legit.
Gotcha. Thank you. So basically if I hear you correctly, you are Allgeist, the physicist. Is he the sort of published physicist that you're talking about? Or is it the other
No.
person?
Allgeist is the guy on YouTube who's come on with
Right.
us. He's been on my channel before, not so much on X, but I think most of our audience knows who he is.
Sure.
German guy.
Gotcha. So he put together numbers. I think you had mentioned you sort of couldn't really work with them, but it sounds like Allgeist also sent you to at least one other university professor's work, which you looked at, and which I see you shaking your head if you want to.
No, I did not receive their work, but I was informed about it.
Gotcha. What was the thing that looked like legit that you were saying? Like
pull it up. We can pull it up, I guess. But it was it looked like it was from a textbook. You want to ask something else? I'll try to pull it up here.
Sure. Thank you. So I guess I'm just saying, one, if you are, if you're designing the crime scene, you can potentially put all of the things where you need to. And if you are also controlling the videos, you can potentially put the audio in to say what you want. You can also put people in the audience who can confirm what you would expect to hear by saying firecrackers, pops, etc. Personally, I sort of question the math on everybody's stuff. I would love to see Allgeist's work. I would love to see these two professors' work. I think you said that you wrote software that sort of confirmed that. I think that's an option. It doesn't make me feel good as somebody who's kind of skeptical of a lot of these things. So I am, and then also, even if you do kind of, make a good case, I feel like that case can be, appropriated and redirected to serve the sort of official narrative, whereas your, 15 milliseconds are going to be kind of lost in that discussion. And the sort of thing that everybody will hear was, oh, low-C shooter is on the roof. And so, between those 4 or 5 aspects, and I know John Bray has also sort of quote unquote written code that you feel like maybe AI to sort of prove his thing. I guess that's my concern with some of these hidden documents or codes that might be saying what you want them to say, but unless they're triangulated with a bunch of different people and the numbers are specific, I would have difficulty accepting those numbers. So that's just my kind of response to that. And I know that there's I don't think there's any other good audio analysis. I think that I'm not sure Truth Evades has published his. I don't think that
He needs to come on the show.
yeah, I'm not sure he's going to do that, but I would
doing
love for that to happen. What he needs to do is post something, post his response or his I guess his numbers to his Substack. But there are different theories, right? There's the sort of coming from the speaker, right? So all of these are kind of attempts to explain the different possibilities while also maintaining, the rest of the argument. And yeah, when guns fire, people jump, and you can see a few people jump, I think, but you also see a whole lot of people not jumping, but sort of turning towards where Charlie is. So it's a little ambiguous for me, which is why I'm kind of trying to survey all of the different theories, see where they conflict, and then also with this option, with this theory that I'm sort of proposing, offering, what could also happen in order to make all those things work, so to speak.
Okay, we do have our. There we go. That's nice. This is the live stream with part of that document that I was talking about right here. It doesn't have the conclusion up right now, but this is part of the document I was talking about.
What
Nice.
does that mean?
I would love if you could send that to me. I would love that if you have permission or what have you.
I will send you the link. I'm not going to open up my DMs right now, but let me see if I can fix this. I will send you the link to that video, and you can look at everything that I've seen on it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, great. So I guess that's just my response to that. But yeah, appreciate you going through it. And do you have a gun in mind that you're thinking was? And let me also just say this to all the sort of audience people who might kind of think about Butler. From what I understand, this exact same kind of audio analysis was used to prove that where the shooter, or that, I guess, Crooks was the shooter who took those shots.
We're not discussing that case right now.
I totally hear that. But what I was saying was, it would kind of be that same pattern of potentially, if you're, and I know Algeist has mentioned that he thinks Butler was fake, but if you can design the crime scene with that in mind, it looks like multiple events are using the same method to confirm what is, being hoped to be determined. I'll also just throw out, it sounded, when I last saw that video, it sounded like the gunshot from Butler and UVU sounded similar to me, but I haven't checked that out in a while, so maybe other people can check that out for me. But with that said, I'll let you move on, Jordan.
Okay. Kelly, I think we're moving on to.
Should we move on to audience questions?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we've wrapped up just about everything. So I have been starring items throughout, or questions throughout the stream. But if you guys have any specific questions that you really, really, really want to make sure that are asked, please drop those in now. Okay. And also, we do have a bunch of super chats too, so I'd love to incorporate those as well. Okay, let's start. Yuli John, the fake and gay theory. Thank you so much for the super chat. The fake and gay theory could just as easily apply to all of our lives. There's no reason to go this way, no reason whatsoever. Thank you.
That's simulation theory.
Yeah.
Everything is a simulation, according to some people.
You know, there's a lot of folks that believe that, and yeah, depends on.
Can I? And I'll just say from what I understand, the fake and gay theory is just basic skepticism, and there are problems with skepticism. I think we should be skeptical of Fed slop. I think we should be skeptical of some of the conspiracies. It's typically the case that Fed sloppers will be skeptical of conspiracies and vice versa, but they won't be skeptical of their own kind of things. So this was an attempt to kind of be skeptical of everything, including the so-called evidence, and what it would need to take in order for those to be messed up. So there you go.
What's so interesting as well, Ego, is that the Fed sloppers aren't really skeptical of other Fed sloppers, but the conspiracy theorists are very skeptical of all the conspiracy theorists. So anyway, for what that's worth, that's a little ironic.
It's a personality thing, I think.
Yeah.
We were all damaged in our childhoods or something.
Exactly. But here we are fighting for what's right, we think. Okay. Thank you again. There is only evidence of a microphone moving under his shirt and the necklace flying out after being broken by said moving mic. There is no other video evidence of any other mechanism or object. Uh-oh. Oh, man. The shirt's coming off.
Well,
this is the OG shirt. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one of the things that continues to happen is people can see what's happening under things, right? So everybody's got X-ray vision. So people are saying like, oh, this is what's happening under the shirt, or oh, when the bullet enters, this is what's happening, within the body, and it's sort of bouncing around this and that. And I think it's speculation. You can infer things, but it's not for sure, and so it's unclear what that is. And I'll also just say, in my sort of theory, the teeny little squib at the sort of top, it would not necessarily be under the shirt. It would sort of be at the I guess the collar, and it would be hidden by that little front puff. So that's just my thought.
And I really want to fix this. Did that fix it? No, it didn't fix it. It's on the wrong side. I don't know why. Okay, can we put that back up?
Oh, yep. Here we go.
And we just double did it. Okay. So there's only evidence of a microphone moving under a shirt. Well, it actually starts over here. And if my shirt wasn't tucked in, see how the microphone moves? The microphone moves with the rest of the shirt. Just like that, because the shirt is coming up. It's just acting, it's being acted on by the shirt. It is not itself doing the acting. So it starts under the D for freedom. I need to get this thing printed. I called the place last week, didn't answer their phone. Called the place this morning, didn't answer their phone. But this is the OG 4-Sun Defender from Carhartt, ordered through Graphic Out without the text because it is a sample order. So it is the right exact shirt that even fits me right. But I just haven't gotten the text printed because these people don't answer their phone. But to answer their question, the statement, that's why it moves.
Can I just say, Jordan, also, I think what you picked up was really interesting, that the shirt that Charlie was wearing that day, the Freedom shirt, was a sort of original that they had kind of were using for, I forget the word for it, but So anyway, so that's also kind of interesting. I know how many people were buying those same shirts in the weeks after, and
The
so
grifter edition.
anyway, and I also know a lot of people were making bets through like Kalshi or Polymarket or something on what parts of Charlie Kirk's story would, if the guy would be found within a day or two. And so I know there's been a lot of bets placed on political events. So maybe another point in the fake theory for that one.
This program does not endorse gambling, by the way.
For the record. But I'm going to bet we're on the right track. Okay, here we go. Necklace is a red herring, says Mr. Turpin. Would either of you like to weigh in on that?
It is an observable that we have to explain.
Iko, what do you think?
I tend to agree with that. I think the red herring piece. I think that there's no evidence to. Well, I guess I can't say there's no evidence to suggest that it's not a necklace, but to me, because of the way that the necklace was so wrapped into these narratives, it seems like they are trying to use the necklace to explain the puff, which you can believe or not.
Okay, I'm gonna ask something real quick at the risk of being wrong, okay, but we're all just friends here, we're all just talking. I wonder, right, if this was quote unquote real, would he not have had some kind of blood coming out of his mouth or nose at some point? Because I think about what had me thinking about that was I'm working on a post about my son shooting his first deer. And I was looking at the pictures, and even though he shot the deer right like on the shoulder and like the perfect spot, of course, there's still blood coming out of the deer's nose and mouth. And then I looked back at the picture, or the video rather, of this guy in a bank who was some, bank robber who gets shot in the neck. And ultimately there's blood coming out of his, mouth and nose. So I don't know if anybody could enlighten me. I just wanted to ask that.
I just asked ChatGPT and it says it depends.
Good old ChatGPT. From what so I don't know about that. I guess it depends. But I will say that there have been a few. There was at least one picture of what was claimed to be blood by Charlie's right ear. Some people used it to say it was an entry wound. Some people said it was an exit wound. Some people said that it was, blood from the bullet. And so, the thing is, I think anything can be explained. And that's really kind of the problem that's going on. Like, we have certain, things that we're seeing that we can't explain. And then people are, explaining it based on their position. If they're fed sloppers, they explain it as, oh, it's a miracle, or, oh, that's normal, or, oh, you can expect to see this. And then conspiracy people are sort of, coming up with wilder theories to explain some of this. So it's also the case that the picture might have been altered in ways that showed a little bit of red by the ear, right? So it's unclear what any of this stuff is. And we are, I think, at the end of the day, speculating but I think it's probably a good idea to try to figure out as many options as it could be in order to hold the kind of complexity that is required to deal with all of this insanity that we are, watching every day.
I just have a real hard time, you guys, believing or imagining that sorry, I guess it would be on this side. If, one was hit in the neck right here, right next to the esophagus, how does that not impact something that would then make you bleed out of your mouth and nose? How does that not happen?
Yeah, ChatGPT seems to agree, but I'm not a doctor, so I have no idea.
Just something to consider. Maybe I haven't asked around specifically. I've talked to doctors and nurses just generally about the type of blood that they saw, the amount they saw, the color of it, the texture, what it appeared to be, right? But I haven't asked that specific question. It hadn't really come to me literally until like tonight. So
The more you look at it, the wronger it is.
mm-hmm.
Have any more super chats?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Please keep going. I'm going to step away for just a second, but if you want to hop to the next super chat, please.
All right. First, unclaimed emotional baggage. First, I would like to thank chat for my new name. Is that the zero guy? That must be the zero guy. Is that the mod? Who is that? Because there is a mod on Kelly's channel who I think... No, it's not. It's just zero. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Okay, thanks for the super chat. I don't know who that is, but I guess it's maybe your other channel, perhaps. And then we have...
And thank chat for the new name.
Janine from North Carolina, thank you for becoming a YouTube member on Kelly's channel. And it's just zero, no comment. Thank you so much on behalf of Kelly, because I'm not streaming right now. All this is Kelly. It's just zero. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. And let's help Kelly get another hand. Is anybody out there? I don't know what chat was talking about with regards to that. Something about a hand. What was that about?
Okay, you guys. So we were talking about the hands in the casket, and I had said, okay, you guys are going to make me want to get hands from Amazon and just see what they look like, right? And see if we can get, realistic looking hands. And so there are actually some pretty viable options that could be here within 2 days, thanks to Amazon Prime.
Let's do it.
Yeah, why not?
Truth of Aid says, do you know that 15 milliseconds of error, it ends up being an uncertainty of 100 feet. I need to work on my pronunciation. It ends up being an uncertainty of 100 plus feet is an incorrect statement. That's not how that error margin works. What I'm saying is when I drag the cursor from here to over here, it adds 15 milliseconds of error about aggregated. But the precision at which I can get it down to 4 milliseconds of error is very small. Like if I go here, it's maybe 4 milliseconds. If I go over here, it's like 6 milliseconds. If I go over here, 4. If I go over here, it's 6. If I go over here, it's 15. If I go over here, it's like 7. If I go over here, it's back down to 4. If I go over here, it's maybe 20 milliseconds of error. So I can get pretty precise down over here to figure out where the software likes it. And I can change the FPS of the bullet, and it still favors over here, not over here, never favors over here. It always favors over here, pretty much no matter what I do. So it's not like the amount of error in the entire system is 15 milliseconds. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that I go from 4 milliseconds of aggregated error when it's over here to, I guess, 20 milliseconds of aggregated error when I go over here. And that difference is why it favors this position and not that position. That doesn't mean there's an uncertainty field of 100 plus feet. That's not what that means. I think that was all the super chats. And I just thanked all the new members on your channel. And I think we're good for the super chats.
Awesome. Okay,
can I just respond to that really quick? Because I appreciate that perspective, and I do think I speak for everyone when I say, Jordan, we need you to get a better theory than the shooter on the roof. And it's not to say, and I'm slightly joking, because if you believe it, you believe it. But I also think that, you know, just in terms of due diligence, like, to me, like, and this is, I guess, how I even came up with this theory, if you are trying to consider all possible scenarios, I think you have to come up with an alternative to that, just in case it turns out that it didn't happen. And I can understand the certainty that math provides, I think, but the problem with math, and this is sort of what the butterfly effect is all about in chaotic systems in general, is you can't, like, if you have minor errors, they have big effects. And so, we can say that we have this precise, minute fraction of a second that makes all the difference between life and death. But also, if you're wrong, and Jordan, I don't know, like, you coded that, so you're putting a lot of I guess reliance on what that code's output is, and how it sort of figures out what's coming in. Just saying, I think it would be good for you to consider what else could have happened, and I wonder if you have spent any time considering that, and what you might come up with if we put you on the spot right now as to how, what else it could be. And part of what my, I guess, undermining of the credibility of these videos is about is, if that is wrong, what would you need to do in order to preserve your thesis, so to speak? And, you can argue that's not good science, but it's also, I guess, sort of red teaming the possibility that you're wrong. So if you want to respond.
Imagine that you're talking to a goldfish who has an attention span of 30 seconds. You were saying I need to consider other possibilities in the event that mine is incorrect. Here's what I'll say. I start with the evidence. I do not start with strategy. I'm not coming at this with a strategy of I need to know what to do in case that happens or in case that happens. I start with the evidence, and I let the evidence lead me where the evidence leads me. The evidence is leading me towards there was a gunshot that is captured on all of the audio recordings, and the interpretation of that gunshot is that it was a supersonic gunshot, and that there is a supersonic projectile moving through space through the courtyard with a specific Crack-Thump signature. And that's what my software evaluates. As far as other possibilities, I'm not aware of any other possibilities other than just pure outright forgery, which doesn't help me reproduce. There's no other explanation for that other than an object moving through space faster than sound. So as far as the reliability of the software, depending on what mode you use, if you use the visualization method in the software where it creates a cone, and actually now it creates spheres emitting from the bullet as it travels down the path, the spheres expand at the speed of sound, the muzzle crack sphere expands at the speed of sound. You can cross-reference whether or not it is actually expanding at the speed of sound yourself. You can directly verify that without any knowledge of the code, and you can directly verify that the speed of the bullet is the correct speed by just looking at how fast it's moving through the scene compared to the muzzle blast. You can directly proof all of this stuff without ever looking at the code. The code is there for convenience. It is not doing the math itself in the visualization mode. When you want to drag around the cursor and have it test 1,000 hypotheses per second, yeah, the code is doing the math. But you can double check that with the visual method to make sure that it's not just weird code doing weird stuff. No, this is like I can directly observe the virtual mock cone as it moves through space, and I can manually calculate what the Crack-Thump should be at each observer's location without ever having to look into the code.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, also part of science is when you're doing research design, figuring out the mitigating variables and, isolating the problem so that you can ensure that your findings are legit. And just saying, like, if I understand correctly, you looked at 3 particular videos. It was a UVU review video, it was Cub Keller's video, and was it Adam Bartholomew's video as well, or was it a different video?
It was Bartholomew, I think, Cub Keller, and then there's a random one sort of in the center back of the courtyard. And I isolated those specifically because when I did my test case that proved that the software actually works, that test case showed me that microphones without line of sight to the rifle, to the muzzle, will not have reliable Crack-Thump readings. So that's why I was able to rule out and discredit all the microphones that do not have line of sight to the muzzle, because we proved that with, where is this video? What is this? What is...
Well, and can I just say that's the exact reason why I think so many witnesses at the event were removed, and this was sort of surrounding the adult child and her position, because of the assumption that the shooter is on the roof. And so, there are 17 videos, I think, maybe less. You have picked 3 of them. There were, 3,000 people in the audience, right? However many of them have videos. And so for your test, you just managed to pick the one in which, the person who is connected to the university is filming that. The university itself is filming it.
Hold on. Which one was filmed by the university?
Well, UVU review.
I didn't use that video.
Okay, gotcha. You didn't use that video. Great. I was saying Cub Keller being connected to the university. I think doing work for the university, and also having his video processed by Jason Goodman, who is also connected to this case in other ways, and different people and different dramas come about. And so, it's not to say anything other than, like, are we cool with these sources? Do we think that they're reliable? And, if they're not, how do we address that when it comes to our, the I guess conclusions we draw from them? And so,
what I will say is if someone else has more original videos, I will happily process those. But until then, I have to work with the evidence that I have and make conclusions based on that, and consider that the evidence is not, I don't have clear chain of custody, so I cannot make super confident conclusions. I do have to keep that in mind, but I have to work from the evidence that I have. I can't just say I don't really know if this video is 100% solid, so I can't do anything. My hands are tied. No, I can do stuff with it, and just keep in mind it may not be entirely authentic, but I have to work with what I have, So let's get to some other comments here, maybe.
So if you want to, we can add that photo to the stage, which was a question asking about where is this video? And that was a question that was coming in from Zero. He asked a few different times along the way. But asking about that person in the crowd. I don't know that I have seen that angle specifically. Either of you guys or anyone else in the audience feel like they've seen that angle?
From that phone, no. I know this video, but not from that phone.
yeah, I mean, and where are all of the videos, and it goes to the question of why are the videos that we do have the ones we have.
Mm-hmm. And because a lot of times it's not just the angles that you see, it's the angles that you don't see. And I think that's something that's super relevant when it comes to the Adam Bartholomew Life is Driving video. There are very interesting things sprinkled throughout his hour-long stream, but you also have to wonder what's going on that you can't see.
This is a good question. How many seconds would it take?
Yeah, for blood to start coming out of the mouth. I'm trying to kind of on the side do a little research on that. It's so hard to adequately do research in real time.
Yeah.
Short of using ChatGPT and I like or an AI, and I hesitate to do that. I never solely rely on something like that. I know a lot of people do, but I don't.
Twitter to 35. There's no way in hell the grieving is realistic. Yeah, Spima. She wants sympathy, power, influence, money, and it's the A. I forgot the A the other day too. And what's the A?
Oh my gosh, it's not acknowledgement, accolades, acknowledgement, something.
Not affection. Influence, power, attention.
Attention. I was like, awareness, yes, attention.
I need a better acronym. Yeah, that's what Erica wants.
Question about Erica is just, does it, I think people can't believe it, right? And so, don't understand why she's not grieving or don't understand, why she's acting the way she does. But I think it does explain things a lot better if it is faked and she's, living with the knowledge of it being faked, but also having been put in this spot to, continue this op or, do whatever she's doing, which might be playing a villain also, attacking Candace. Both of them are designed to attack each other in order so the people in the court can basically say, look what's happening, you need to make this private, and then the evidence is what we've never seen, because it would be prejudicial, as evidenced by TPUSA and Candace play fighting, right? And of course Candace and Erica, I think both are very connected to TPUSA, right? So again, how fake is this, and is everybody in on it, is a question to ask.
The more I see of Erica, the more I think he's dead, because I just don't see how Charlie would allow her to behave that way if he were still alive. So that's what I think.
This is where Jordan and I differ, though, because I check my preconceived notions, opinions, or whatever, whatever has been written about Charlie in the past at the door when we sit down to investigate and just look at them objectively and say they could have been in an arranged situation. They could have just been coexisting. He could have been benefiting from that marriage just as much as she was benefiting. Or he could have just said, I want to get the heck out of here. Let her deal with it. There's so many different reasons.
Why would Charlie Kirk fake his death? We have to ask, why would Charlie Kirk, the actor, fake his death? Not why would Charlie Kirk, the character, fake his death?
Mm-hmm.
I still think he's still alive, though.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, I think Erica's an op. I think Candace is an op. I think
the speed of his necklace and shirt move to see what we see in the video with the software. Yes, I have. The very first frame is, so I have to film at 60 FPS because I don't have 60 FPS of the front, but I have 60 FPS coming from the side here. And that shows that the necklace comes up, and I don't have that video pulled up here, but I think there's one frame where the necklace isn't up yet. So it's still in the first frame, and then in the second frame, the necklace is not quite up yet. And then in the next frame, the necklace is up. And I've done quite a few tests where I'm testing that specifically to see if I have exactly the right speed, and I do. So the answer to that is yes, they are quite close. And you're busy typing, and let's find another one. A loud gunshot makes the body automatically react without even thinking. Jerk, jolt, jump, etc., etc. Get it? Yeah, if it's loud enough. A lot of people didn't, though. If you don't ask me on stream, ask him if I have seen the footage from the camera angle. Do you know what footage they're...
That was the photo that we
put that one.
Yep. So we'll work on that. Hopefully somebody recognizes that person. Someone recognizes that angle. You guys, please feel free. My email address is kelly@kellyrabon.com, KELI@KELIRABON.com. You can also DM me at Kelly Rabon. Jordan is at Jordan Henshaw. Is it just at Jordan Henshaw on X? Hold on a second. I'm like, there's another letter or something in there, isn't it?
It's Jordan Henshaw HQ, because I saw Trigger Smart had HQ and I needed something to tag onto the end, and that worked. So I got that from him.
At Jordan Henshaw HQ on X.
And my public email is jahenshaw1@gmail.com. I have another one that's basically the same as Kelly's, but I don't advertise that publicly.
I'll wise up one of these days. And then
That's
y'all
my
make sure that
real.
you're following eco. So we've got ecological criminal report. Oh my gosh, it's a mouthful on X, but he has so many hot takes and great info on X. So if you are over there on X, you will definitely be in for a treat.
I appreciate that. I saw a comment that was recent. I think it was something akin to like, how could he be alive if there's a bullet fragment found in his neck? And I think that it gets to the question of like, then the court would have to be in on this, right? And at what point, who isn't in on this, right? And so so that I think is at least what I'm talking about. I think everybody has a lot of different ways of thinking about this, and so I'll just end it there.
I don't think anything was found in his neck.
Yeah. I think that also will play into ultimately, if we ever do get the real truth, why they said that, who said that, so-and-so turned to Mikey. Oh, I guess it was Brian Harpole at the hospital, turns to the amazing, miraculous Mikey McCoy, right? While he's on the phone with JD Vance or whatever.
Blood all over his shirt.
All over the place. He needed to get, a change of clothes from the nurses, the sweet, sweet nurses at the hospital, right? And the vice president says, what do you need? What can I get for you? And he says,
we need an autopsy.
Autopsy. What?
Because we don't want it to be another JFK.
We need an autopsy. That's what you think? Because the fix was in my opinion.
Never happened. Shit that I just broke my own rule, but stuff that never happened. Starred. Lifting the veil. I'm trying to find that. I couldn't find it though. Do we know about the YouTube channel Lifting the Veil?
I've heard several people over the last couple of months mention that, and I have not checked it out. So I need to do that.
There's a few of them. One of them with 120,000 subs, but it doesn't seem like it's Charlie Kirk. Oh, here it is. Squib tubes coming out of the bottom of the shirt. Let me pull this up real fast. Present. Share screen. I want to be careful, though. I don't think there's any gore in that. Entire screen. Let's check out Lifting the Veil. And go back into... how do I clear this? I don't know where it went. Hide. And go into this one. And at stage. Here we go. I still don't know exactly what that is right there. But it's probably part of the pendant. This is all the stuff that I've recreated. No problem. Stays in frame. I think that's just the pendant down there. I don't think that's a squib tube. Glitchy blood from AR overlay. I don't think so. And I think a lot of this stuff is just video compression stuff. A lot of the way that the blood or the red circle, that is a circle, by the way. That's not a square, John. But the way that it sort of glitches where the red spot doesn't track with the neck, that's just a compression artifact. That's not because of CGI.
How certain the rest of it on that?
I'm pretty certain. I'm pretty certain. That's not what CGI looks like. That's just video compression.
But pretty certain and 100% certain are different things. So I'm just, again,
it's
wondering.
not CGI. That's not what CGI does, man. It's just not.
Because you think it would look like perfect or what?
You would expect a perfect track. Yeah, that's part of it. Like when I think about what would I look for when I look for CGI in footage, that's not even remotely close to what I'm looking for. I'm looking for texturing problems. I'm looking for grain inconsistencies. I'm looking for straight angles where there shouldn't be. I'm looking for stuff that looks like it's from an effects library. I'm looking for stuff that looks like stock effects. I'm going onto the Corridor Crew YouTube channel to watch them break these things down. Like, okay, let's take a UFO video that some random person posted to Reddit and let's put it in front of these guys, have them watch it one time and tell us, is this real or BS? And they'll just tell you immediately, this little tell right there, this little tell right there, that little tell right there. If you watch like 10 of those videos, you'll start to pick up on what the different tells are. And this little tracking artifact is compression. It's not CGI. It's just not. But anyway, that's my opinion.
In some of the videos, though, maybe not that one in particular, in some of the videos, though, it does look as though the spot moves around. Have you guys seen any of those?
Yeah, this is compression.
What are your thoughts, Iko?
Sorry, I was reading some of the chats. What was that?
Oh, in some of the videos, I mean, probably at least a couple that I can think of, that the spot looks like it moves around.
Yeah, I think on the one hand, that's sort of what Jordan is sort of talking about. Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate the explanation. I think all we have is explanations, and those explanations don't line up. But personally, I mean, I'm arguing for the apparently the CGI thesis here. Which is to say that I think there are edited videos. I think the videos are there to promote the idea that he was shot from the front in the neck, and they have been misleading the investigation from the beginning. Can I prove it? No, but in my humble opinion, there's a lot of data to point to the possibility and the probability that this was faked. So
as the moderator, as the middle woman here, what if I pose this? What if there have been some videos that have been CGI edited, that have been dropped into the sphere to throw people for a loop?
I think one of them might be AI enhanced. That's the one where the ring slips off of his finger. Like it's on this finger, and then suddenly it's on this finger. And it's like, what the heck? Apparently it's a hinged ring, and somehow it just fell down, but it stayed there. It didn't fall off the whole hand. It just stayed there. I've looked at that video so many times, and like I was talking with Trigger Smart about this a long time ago. The conclusion I came to was the best explanation I can come up with is it is AI enhanced, not AI generated, but someone had a smaller resolution video file that was real, and they used an AI enhancer to up the resolution, and the AI might have gotten the position of the ring wrong. That was the best explanation I could come up with. And that is because I don't have any examples of AI video generation with the ability to generate a photorealistic scene to a real life event. I've never seen that demonstrated before, so I don't know that it exists. But what I do know exists is AI enhancement on real videos of real world events. So that was my best guess for that video. but it's not confirmed. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if some of the drone footage or the like little bug things, are I'm
No,
curious about that.
that's
Um,
dragonflies. That's
no,
dragonflies.
no, well, it might be dragonflies, certainly. But I'm just saying, like, not to say that they were even there, but possibly put into the pictures. Although I'm sure there are bugs in the videos as well. I was personally wondering that recently. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I
Same.
think it's like
Perhaps if that maybe they were. I mean, one could put the video into some software and say, hey, make these bugs 25% bigger than what they normally would be, or something like that, and then that might lead people to believe, oh, those could be drones. So, I mean, something as simple and subtle as that then people cling on to.
Yeah,
I think this is
who
a
knows?
valid time to apply Occam's razor, though. Like, genuinely, like, is it AI bugs that someone added there just to mess with us, or is it just a dragonfly? I think it's probably just a dragonfly.
It could be there to discredit people, who are kind of posing this. Another thing is, like, either way, right? There's pretty much one suspect if it's, flying drones, right? And that's probably going to be an intelligence agency. And, it might be us and another foreign one working together, or it might be a foreign one, but it's sort of, if you're at that level of
Hold on.
sophistication, it's going to be, one direction.
If you see a drone flying over Walmart, is your first thought it must be the CIA?
Sorry, no, I meant the like little bug-looking drones that were supposedly taking a shot at him from 5 feet away, or triangulating for the shot. I'm not exactly sure what the theory is at the point, but the conspiracies I was seeing were not just kind of like a drone flying above and sort of taking pictures, but like little killer bugs that are shooting, taking shots at Charlie.
We have to get that indie lady on here.
Right, that's specifically what I'm referring to.
Kelly, has she
Yeah.
reached out to you at all?
I have connected with her a little bit. Yeah, like I have her.
Does she want to come on?
Maybe. Yeah, she's in another country, so she's in a very different time zone. But
we have to work that out.
Yeah, but she does have a YouTube channel, so I do think that she's interested in cross promoting and things like that. She just started her channel in March.
Yeah, we need to get her on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, do we have another comment? Keep things moving along. Chasselwin. I think Chasselwin is probably at least close. It's possible to triangulate. What's that?
I said I was just calling him Chase. I don't know if it's actually Chase.
Chase Llewellyn. It's possible to triangulate a position with sound alone, but there's only one way to do it. If you have exact times, which none of the cameras were used or mics used at the event can do, you need an atomic clock syncing. Yes, you need time synchronization between the microphones if you're doing triangulation, and you also need to know when the rifle was fired. Those are the two things you need. The time synchronicity is an issue, and knowing when the rifle was fired is also an issue. So those are two massive hurdles you have to jump over in order to use triangulation. That's why I don't use triangulation. I use the Crack-Thump method, which doesn't have any of those issues. Proof of AIDS says at 15 milliseconds of error at the regular speed of sound, the circumference around a specific point in space is 32 meters. There's no way to tell a bullet went somewhere based on that error. We already addressed this. It's not 15 milliseconds of error. I've never shot a deer or a hog that did not have blood coming out of its nose, not a single one.
Jordan, do you want to just give the specific numbers that you have? I think you were sort of mentioning the aggregate there with that one,
That
but
the Happy Meal version.
if you'd like to post that
Well, I did
for the
post it.
people. Okay.
I
Well, I mean,
posted it for
if
you.
you want to share those numbers, I think it was people were trying to get specific there. It seemed like.
I posted the Happy Meal version just for you, Eco. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Let's pull that up.
Yeah, and that wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but I don't think I
Let's
understood.
talk about that. Let's talk about that. What were you looking for?
I guess I was looking at. Well, I thought you were doing it with your own mathematics first, and then you said you were doing your code. And so I guess, I don't know, I think you posted that code. Is that right?
It's open source. It is at GitHub. Let's
Right.
go to GitHub, or just type in Jordan Henshaw GitHub, and it should take you to my GitHub. And I'm super zoomed in, and I'm sharing my screen as well. I have to remember that. Then you're going to go to repositories. Going to go to CalCrack, and here's the repository. This is the README, and the algorithm is right here.
Do you want to
Algorithm.py.
throw that link in the chat there?
I don't have access to the chat right this second, but I can. Let me see if I can find the chat and post this real fast.
And I guess I was sort of unclear. What I thought you had done is sort of like run code with the videos and the audio, but it sounded like you were integrating that code with Blender. So I guess
so it's a Blender add-on. When we open up Blender, Blender is open source software written mostly in C++, but it has a Python API that is actually dog-fed into Blender, which means it is super easy to make your own, basically, edits to Blender. You can add your own stuff to its interface and make Blender do really cool stuff using computer code. And so what my software is, it's a little software package called an add-on that runs on Blender. You install it into Blender. So imagine that Blender is your operating system on your computer. What I did is I wrote basically an application for that computer. So it's like Microsoft Word, Chrome, that type of thing for your operating system, but only here the operating system is Blender. So that's what the software is. It's basically an application that you run with Blender.
Gotcha. And then you were also, it sounded like you were kind of placing the gun in different places in order to possibly come up with thousands of hypotheses that you could test. And you were doing one in particular, which was on the roof. Was that part of Blender, or is that? I thought that's what you were talking about when you were talking about Blender.
Okay, so if I were to write my own software that is standalone, where I create everything in the software, I'm going to have to create a 3D viewport, which is really hard to do. So I use Blender instead to be my 3D viewport. I can use the 3D viewport and the objects and meshes and geometry and vertices in Blender to give myself a 3D cursor that I can move around the three-dimensional scene, and then my code can interact with that 3D cursor to find out where it is, and I can place meshes that represent the rifle, the target, and the orientation and UVU itself. And the 3D viewport is just basically the interface for the user in order to most efficiently type in the data from the real world. Okay.
Gotcha. And then where did you get the data from the real world that you're feeding into this?
Got it from Gary from Paramount Tactical. He released a model of UVU that was originally done in, I forget what the software was called, but it's just another 3D software. And he got that data with a drone that they flew. I think he had a subcontractor or somebody who flew a drone with, I think it was a LiDAR, and they got a map of the campus with drone data from the ground. And that is the mesh that I'm using. It was originally 4 gigabytes. I used a decimator modifier to get it down to about 600 megabytes.
Cool. Well, as the person who is suspect of or suspicious of all of the data, especially that coming from Gary, do you feel like there would be any reason to, well, I guess, not trust that data, but I guess at that point it sort of doesn't matter. Anyway,
Well, why would it not matter?
well, because like arguably it's like objective, and we're admitting I guess we're going with the Fed slop story at that point anyway. So I'm not sure what 15 milliseconds is like, how to I mean, we're just assuming a lot of data. The data is literally the entire, like, what's being input into the equation that Jordan is sort of running here, that gets him the conclusion that is leading him to believe the gun was shot into a van. And I'm looking forward to the conversation between Jordan and Gary for sure. And
how's yours, by the way?
His producer told me that they had double booked, and they're going to connect back with me at some future point.
I think that might be code for something else. That's
yeah, that might be. But he had invited anybody to dispel his logic. I did it on Twitter, and he got mad, blocked me, and continued to do it. So he unblocked me, but he told me to come on a couple times, and he's sort of reneged on that at least once. So we'll see if he has the courage to do it. But
well, you already debated him, didn't you?
Yeah, he came into a space that we had done and sort of gave his regular spiel, I think, and then invited me into another one later. And it's something to talk to a whole lot of propaganda accounts or whatever is going on over there.
Hey, we're trying to get him on this show, so I don't think he's propaganda. I think for the most part he's sincere. And he has good intentions. I don't agree with him specifically on Candace. But actually, what I find consistently is when some new theory comes out, my take on the theory is actually pretty similar to his take on the theory. A lot of my debunks are basically the same debunk that he has. So I think he has good intentions. I think he just takes the skepticism maybe one step too far. Kelly, you look like you want to say something.
I think he takes the skepticism he takes a lot of things, a lot of different ways too far. And having been on his show, Gary, I mean, he can't even say my last name right still to this day. So
I just re-listened to that. He asked you how to pronounce it.
Oh, he's, I don't know. I heard him say in Eco Space the other day, he said something like, I see we have Kelly Raboon in here.
That was intentional. All right, that was intentional.
If I can just say, I think I agree with you, Jordan, that he has debunked a lot of what I consider to be bullshit conspiracies. And I think that's because he knows what really happened. I think it's possibly possible and even probable that he, being connected with a whole lot of Green Berets who are, very much into this conspiracy space, as well as, what Kelly sort of mentioned about simunition with his connections to TPUSA. On the one hand, I think he's weaponizing logic in a way that sort of hides what really happened behind a whole lot of fallacies. I do think he takes apart a lot of bad things, but I also think that may be because the controlled ops in the conspiracy space are there to discredit the conspiracy theorists, in which case he's privy to the script, so to speak, and he knows exactly how to argue it because this was designed. So I think that is at the bottom of a lot of this, and going and bringing. I'm just saying. I think bringing out what's real can take place in conversations like this.
All right. Yeah, Erica was mic'd up while grieving over the casket, which is not shady at all.
That's
How
right.
dare you?
Totally normal. I mean, who doesn't do casket mourning videos and then post it to all of their social medias and get mic'd up, you guys? I mean, it's like a trend. She's starting a trend for 2026.
If you don't do it, you're weird.
Right.
Instead of a puncture, could it have been a plug, talking about the pendant gun that was pulled, activated when the shirt covers the area? And is the necklace thick enough to disguise tubing inside the chain? Necklace is not thick enough to disguise tubing inside the chain, I don't think, no. But I think that is possible, yeah. When the shirt covers it, anything can happen. And the way that the necklace moves is pretty consistent with it blowing something out, perhaps. And that's what my demonstrations seem to be that's the direction my demonstrations are pointing in. That is the way that I've been able to reproduce it best. So that actually is where I'm looking at right now. Yeah. Hey, chat, are any of you enrolled in at UVU? Do any of you recognize that girl in, hold on, right here? Does anybody recognize that person? Would you be so inclined to find her and ask her about that video? She seems kind of old to go to UVU, so I would be surprised. I guess I can't see her face here, but I think I've seen her before. I don't think she goes to UVU. Basically, nobody who went there that day actually went to UVU, is what we found. Charlie would fake his death to protect Erica and Trump. Probably.
Probably himself too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Israel and America.
Lots of motivation there.
So we have some comments on which specific type of Amazon product that we need to get.
Yes. You guys, please feel free to send me deets on the Amazon products. And Chewbacca, if you can send me specifically, it'll help me big time just to be most expeditious. If you want to send me any of that footage, Kelly at kellyraybon.com or DM on X at kellyraybon.
All right. And that was the last of the starred comments. And we're just at, I don't think this is true. That's not true.
I think Kat's just going crazy over there. Kat said some wild things these last few minutes.
All right, so we're at 3 hours here, and it was supposed to only go 2 hours, but we were having so much fun.
We were. I hope you guys are having as good of a time as we did.
yeah, I think we're good to go. Eco, any closing thoughts?
I think on the one hand, we all are checking in on this like way too much. And on the other hand, like it's really important. The government might be running ops on us and we should know about that. I don't think that's what we want our government to do. And there's a lot of things we're being distracted from that are maybe more important, that, on top of our families, political events. And also keep your eyes open because I feel like there's a ton of events that are staged or faked, and they are meant to justify doing what happens immediately following. There's been a lot of things that have happened since. There's also a lot of rumors in the space that are, there to discredit, that are there to, make connections that don't need evidence. And there's also, a lack of evidence about things that, to use Candace's phrase, we don't know, but we know, or vice versa. So, there's a lot. And it's fun talking with people like you all and the chats, and building community around it. And, that's something that I think can be good that comes out of this. So thanks for hanging for 3 hours.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate your time, sir. And there we go. All right. And just a reminder, we do have the new channel now. Try and prove it. That one is, I can't post it right now, but I should post it. We should post it somewhere in the comments.
Yes.
It is on X and it is on YouTube. Both places it is trying to prove it. All one word, of course. I don't seem to have access to it on YouTube right now. Now I do. Try and prove it on X and YouTube. Hopefully we will get everything migrated over to that channel eventually. But right now we're obviously trying to get our audiences to subscribe and follow that channel. For the future would be terrific. And also this Saturday, coming up in just a couple days, I am doing another field test, just like the field test last week that failed. But this one's going to succeed, I think. It's going to be really cool. It will be pretty much the first like full-blown reconstruction that even resembles a full-blown reconstruction of the Squib theory. And I'm going to run out into a field wearing a rig. You're not going to see the rig. This thing's going to blow up in my face, basically. And we're going to walk back to the car, and we're going to see that the rifle fired, the BB gun fired. And my buddy out there is going to be wearing Mikey McCoy's backpack that is going to house most of the electronics that are going to do it. There's going to be another backpack with the rifle that is going to house the rest of the electronics. And there's going to be a clicker for Blake, even though that was pretty much debunked already. But it's going to be really cool. And we're basically reproducing everything. And we're going to have a super professional stream because I'm going to spend a lot of time preparing for it. And it's going to be super legit.
In case you guys have not picked up on it, Jordan means business, okay? So please keep sending all your love, manifest, a successful demo on Saturday. I believe it's going to be amazing. So thank you, Jordan, for all of your hard work. Thank you guys for being here. As we continue to build up this Try and Prove It channel, we would love to have your ideas. Let us know what kind of cases that you are interested in hearing about, interested in us digging into. Obviously, we've got plenty of work to do on the CK case, but it's fun to start digging into other things too.
And if you have your own theory, feel free to message either of us, and maybe we can have you on to share, because we have been having some difficulty finding people to come on. Hopefully we can get Truth of AIDS on. Maybe we can get Indy to come on and not have any gaps. That would be terrific. So if you don't like the guest last week, you don't like the guest this week, or whoever, you can come on if you have a good theory. All right.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. This was fun.
Yeah, we will see you on Saturday and hopefully on the Try and Prove It YouTube channel, but we'll be streaming to our personal ones as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kelly. Have a good night.